Hello, my dearest INFJ entrepreneurs. Welcome back to another audio only episode. I feel like these audio onlys are so much easier for me to do because I can get to be in bed. And I think for introverts, it's just like the most comfortable place to be, and then not get, makeup and, dolled up for the occasion of a video. So today I want to talk to you about empathy because I feel like INFJs, we do have a lot of it. In fact, if you read our official description on the Myers-Briggs website, empathy is like, yeah, INFJs, we have empathy, we have a lot of it. And I think that one of the things I've noticed about INFJs is to be true, and you can correct me if your experience has been different, but one of the cool thing about having empathy in a way we have it is that we have FE, which is extroverted feeling. This also means that we can step into a room and we kind of sense who is tense, who is tired, who's angry, like what are the emotions are inside other people. And I think one of the things about this, and that just to compare to an INTJ, for example, is that INTJs, they cannot sense it. Like they cannot sense into people. They have to rely on pattern recognition and behavioral cues because they cannot feel into people the way we can feel into people. And the sensory types are, I don't know if you ever had this experience, but they kind of look at your face and they're really, really trying to scan your face for like reactions and like micro behavioral signs. Like my ESTP partner does it a lot of the times when he's trying to just read my face and he's like, "Why are you mad?" And I'm like, "What? I'm not mad. I'm actually quite content." I actually taught this to him like, "Hey, if you cannot know what's going on for me, how about you don't make assumptions and just ask me flat out, like, how do you feel?" Because if you ask me flat out, how do I feel? Like, I'll tell you how I feel and you don't have to guess. And you actually make me mad by calling me mad because I'm not mad. Like, what the hell? I remember just, and I don't want to go like too far into this, but I'm sure you have experienced this before when people misread your body language and you're like, why are you upset? I'm like, no, I'm not upset. This is my face, right? I think INFJs, we can kind of get into deep introspective thoughts and just get in our heads a lot and enter into, and this is hilarious, but enter into like the meat switch situation, which is basically you are so inside your rich inner world that you're just a pile of meat, human meat. And then whatever happening externally, you're like, you're not here. You're just inside your inner world and you're having a blast. And people cannot see it from your face that you're having a blast. And it's the funniest thing ever. And that's when I think also like deep intuitive processors, they do the same. And you know that this is time for you to stop speaking because no information will enter into their system. Anyway, going back to empathy. So we do have empathy and we can feel into people, unlike other types of MBTI. But I think with that is a lot of the INFJ empathy can sometimes, I mean, in terms of business, it can, in terms of business, it can be really handy because if you think about it, like when you have a client in front of you, like oftentimes you know what's up with them without them having to kind of say it, right? Especially if you're working one-on-one basis or you have something that requires more like a one-on-one work. Many times they don't have to explain to you, spell it out because you can like even through chat like Zoom, I mean, you can pick up on what's going on inside of them and you can really just notice it, adjust it, create safety around it. I think it's a very easy for INFJs to kind of navigate and do. And we do it so effortlessly that I like to say we create balance, right? So when someone is tense, like INFJs can be a little bit more light. You can really move that energy in a way to somewhere more balanced. And in that way, you can achieve the whatever goal you're looking to achieve, like get some openness, create some safety to kind of work together with people. I think that's such a cool thing that INFJ do. But in terms of empathy, one of the things I started to notice is that a lot of INFJs, they tend to kind of take responsibility, but overtake responsibility in terms of things for other people, right? Like it can be like an empathy in which you're able to see so many perspectives that you might think, oh, when I said this, maybe they thought this, or and then you can have 600 scenarios in which oh, they might have thought this. Like you can really put yourself into their shoes and kind of like actually scare yourself and overanalyze and overthink and like, oh my God, what if they thought that's what I meant, but really I didn't mean it. Like I meant this, right? And that's when INFJs they get into, let me explain to you. Let me explain to you what I really meant, and over explaining, and other people can go like, what? I didn't even think of that. Why would you like, So many times like that empathizing and harmonizing can fall into a place of overthinking, like, okay, what if you thought of that? And oh, I could see how this could be interpreted this way, right? And you immediately start correcting when the other person wasn't really noticing that, right? You did, right? Because you have this infinite way of seeing how things can land for other people, and other people are like, I have no, kind of didn't think of that, but okay, right? So I think the INFJ empathy is such a unique way of feeling and interpreting, and sometimes preemptively, like, oh, before they even say or think it, like, let me just preempt your reaction and be like, try to damage control something, you might not misinterpret me, right? I remember when I was launching this program in January called The Art of the Approach, I had a couple of people in my network, and I thought to myself, oh my God, like if I talk about this program, they think, what if they think that I use the program on them, or they're like, and I caught myself like, wait a minute, like that would have to be a self-centered way of thinking. And am I gonna just reach out to someone and say, you know what, I'm actually genuinely, this is not the, like you know how like you want to explain something that is not even there yet, and you don't even have to, but because of your empathy, you're like, ooh, I may have just, should I, like, you preface really well, because like, let me preface it so you don't misunderstand me, right? So I think one of the interesting thing about INFJ empathy is that we really don't want to misunderstand people, and we don't want other people to misunderstand us. And when they kind of do, and especially if they shift their behaviors towards us, and it can be professional or personal as well, I think the INFJ system goes into alarm mode of like, where do I even start putting out the fires? Because you are like, the harmony is broken, the connection is broken, or it feels as though like there's just something off, because we can sense when something is off, right? And we don't know where to start putting out the fires. Like, oh, where do I go apologize? When was the moment where I should be apologizing for? Like, should I have been seeing that preemptively, and that's when the INFJ there, we start overtaking responsibility to manage other people's emotions and feelings, right? And sometimes it has nothing to do with us. Like sometimes it's just their own thing. They're going through something, and many times with clients, when there was tension because of something, I immediately thought, oh, I caused it. It was because of me, right? So I think this empathy side of things, it can sometimes fall into just overtaking responsibility when you really shouldn't, right? When it wasn't really about that. But I think the INFJ, like, we want harmony, we want balance, and I think the hardest thing for me was to be like, okay, let me be misunderstood once and twice, and then let that be. Because I read this somewhere that confidence is really letting people misunderstand you, and not trying to defend yourself, and not trying to go, let me explain myself so you understand me correctly, so you see me correctly, right? Because it's not confidence. That's you trying to manage your perception and salvage a relationship where people were not really trying to understand you the first place, right? Like, why am I trying to explain to you something? If you really wanted to know, you would have came to me to get understanding. The fact that you didn't, and you choose to misunderstand the situation and therefore change your stance towards me, like, I don't know where to start to even apologize. Like, this is such an INFJ experience, you guys. I'm sure you have felt this before, but I think one of the biggest shift for us to learn is to let people misunderstand. And if they really genuinely care, then they would take the effort to come for the source and ask those questions for real. And you would have told them the answer. And I'm gonna give you this example because I'm sure if this happened to you, you will be like, okay, this resonates. I was invited to a wedding for a friend, and she asked me to be a bridesmaid. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can be your bridesmaid, no worry. And there were a couple more bridesmaids as well at the wedding. And there was an issue with the weather that day. The wedding was in November, and there were two options. Either it's gonna be inside, indoors, or outside. And the ceremony itself, not the entire celebration, but the ceremony itself. So what happened is that it was very, very cold, you guys. It was really cold. And for some reason, the photographer really pushed for us to be holding the wedding outside because the pictures would look better if it was outside. And on top of that, she insisted that we would not wear any coats whatsoever because it looked better in pictures if we were just only in a summer dress in super cold winterish November weather. Now, mind you, I think most bridesmaids were like, oh sure, no problem, and taking their coats off, and I'm already cold indoors. And I told the photographer, like, hey, I really don't want to take off my coat. I'm shaking already. This is very uncomfortable. I don't know what's the point of this. This is miserable. I don't think it's good for anyone. I don't think it's, I know we can take it off for a picture, but we can, like, I was really trying to advocate, right? I advocate not just for myself, but for the other bridesmaids as well. And I thought perhaps they were not really, comfortable with speaking up, or they didn't want to rock the boat. But, INFJs, we can really feel like, okay, let me take this for the team, for the group, and let me speak up for them and just protect the harmony of the entire group, and not just myself, but everyone. So I suggested this for the photographer, who really pushed back on it. And I remember just making this comment, like, if we get sick, like, are you gonna cover our health insurance? Like, I don't know why I lost my patience, and somehow that slipped out. But I walked away from the conversation thinking, you know what, this is just a very dedicated photographer, right? INFJ, we already place ourselves into their perspective. I thought to myself, like, wow, this is such a dedicated photographer. Like, she really wants the picture to be perfect. And I understand her viewpoint. I see where she's coming from. But I see our viewpoint and the girls as well, not just me. And we're all really, really cold and shaky, right? So it didn't work out. We ended up being cold, and I actually got sick after the event, which is like icing on the cake. But what happened after that is that the wife was actually the next day, the day after the wedding, she was kind of like, how sometimes after a wedding you kind of feel depressed because you thought this is going to be it for you and your life is going to change, and you wake up the next morning in the same house and really nothing really changed. You are just the same, except you spent a lot of money and that was just one evening, right? I don't know if this is universal, but she was kind of depressed, and she was trying to think of herself, like, why she felt the way she did. And then the photographer kind of said, oh, there was one of the bridesmaids who complained about not wanting to, take her coat off and whatnot. And she kind of made this entire story that, in fact, I ruined her wedding, even though we were actually not wearing the coat and we complied. But the fact that I made this, fuss with the photographer that somehow ruined the entire wedding, like, you see this like magnification of the thing. No, the wedding was not ruined. It was perfect. Yes, that was uncomfortable, that moment for everyone. But like, we kind of like, whatever, we just suck it up and then we went with it. But somehow she went into this like spiral of, I ruined her wedding, in fact, because of the photography incident. And then everyone, hated it, like whatever, like she like it made no logical sense whatsoever. But I remember, I didn't even hear this from her. Like, she talked to my partner about it, and my partner's like, yeah, she's really mad at you because of, the photographer incident. I'm like, what? Like, that was nothing compared to the entire evening. Like, it was just me trying to advocate for myself and for the girls. Like, is it like, I couldn't believe, that someone who I thought was my friend, and I was her bridesmaid, and I was cake shopping with her. Like how is it like I'm like enemy number one, and like I'm the one who's being blamed for her not feeling good after her wedding. And just like this like went on for a while, and I thought to myself, like really I'm the villain here? Like how am I the villain? And then I felt really misunderstood. Like, wow, like really really misunderstood. And I thought to myself, like, this makes no sense. Like, I was really really worked up about it. Like, I couldn't believe that someone would not come to me to verify, right? Because if she had came to me, I would have explained to her exactly what happened, and also how we kind of let it go and nothing happened afterwards. It was all okay. But she didn't. She just made up her mind that I ruined her wedding, and because of that, she didn't feel good after, and whatever. And let me tell you, a year later, she came to me to apologize, and she said, I was really depressed. It was actually not about you. It was hard for me after the wedding. I spent so much money. I was expecting more. I mean, yes, at the time, she didn't realize it, but after that, a year later, she actually told me that. But I remember just having a friend that the friendship that broke over a misunderstanding, and having a friend who never comes to you to verify, but they make up their own mind. I think for an INFJ, that's such a nightmare situation, because I like, oh my God, like I would have verified if I see something correctly, if you were my friend, if I cared about you. And when people misunderstand and judge so quickly, like no matter how empathetic you can get, no matter how many angles you can see of the situation, it can be with a client, it could be like, but if someone is, they're just so adamant on misunderstanding you, like what can you do? You can't empathize your way out of it. Yes, you can think, okay, I can see her point, but still, this is not what I would do, right? Because for me, I would come to you and ask, okay, I'm not sure if I understood this correctly. I just want to make sure that, there's no miscommunication here, right? And I think at the time it was not easy to handle, but I think if you're an INFJ, like this is something you kind of have to live with, right? The tension of there's some situation that you have no control over, and you don't even know what to do, how to correct it, how to repair it, because you're not allowed, in, you're not shared the details, you're just misunderstood, and that's it. You have to sit with that tension. You have to be okay with it. You have to not start to over explain yourself. You have to not start to apologize. You don't even know what you're apologizing for, right? And that's such a hard lesson for an INFJ to learn. It is such a hard, paradox of an INFJ, that we can see every single side. I can see your side. Why couldn't you just come and verify? How was it from my side? It's such a hard break as well, right? Because if you wanted, if you cared, you would have. And the fact that you don't, it hurts, right? It hurts the INFJs. It hurts us. And so I think at the end of the day, choosing to understand that not many people have the capacity like you do to verify, is this true? What really happened? Let me understand you, right? Not many people have the capacity to go there. Some of them take a year. Some of them never get there. But that's okay, because you know what your truth is. You know what your intention was. And so if you know your intention, you know your truth, and someone still chooses to misunderstand you and not come to verify reality, well, then there's nothing you can do about it. So coming in terms of our limitations and the limitations of our empathy is an INFJ lifetime task to learn. And it can be a business misunderstanding, guys. Like, it happens all the time. But it can be any connection that you have made in business, right? Or people you have connected and you don't know what happened, but they kind of disappeared on you. You're like, whoa, like, where do I even start? Like, I don't even know. But perhaps that's okay, because if people are like that, then okay, like, let them write a Mel Robbins book, let them, and let yourself also choose people who genuinely care about or have the capacity to hear, right? So that's the topic I wanted to cover for today. And I'm running a program called Empathy as We Know It from next Wednesday, actually. And this is going to be a program with live modules dropping every week from Wednesday, April 15 onwards to the next Wednesday. And I want to invite you to this program if you're an INFJ, and especially if you are someone who is actively operating in business, and it's not about teaching you empathy. You know empathy. Empathy is, you got the empathy part down. It's about actually developing a brand new type of empathy. And it's not about feelings and emotions. It's about precise, accurate understanding of humans, and how do we cultivate the emotional resilience that it takes to take the truth. It's about seeing reality and then deciding what are we going to do with it. And it comes back in different ways in business. Because yes, INFJ empathy is a useful empathy because we know what's going on inside of people. But what we do with that understanding is essentially what matters more. And we don't project, we don't overinterpret, we don't overthink ourselves, we don't, like, filter ourselves. Like, many times, like, we filter, like, should we hold back there, should we not say this, should we not say that, keep the harmony, keep the peace, don't speak, right? So Empathy as We Know It starts next Wednesday. That's April 15. And then it's currently priced at $47, guys. As I'm delivering the program, there will be more modules added. I'm going to increase the prices by the time it's done. And I think it's a great program for INFJs. So if you want to learn more about the program, I'm going to put a link in the description of this episode. You can learn more about the program. If you feel like this is something you want to come in, would love to see you inside of the program. There will be replays. If you can't make it live, don't worry. And thank you so much for listening to this one. If you're not a member of the INFJ Entrepreneurs community, please join our Facebook group, also linking this one on the description. And then I think that's it from now. We have virtual hangouts every month. So I'd love to see your face and get to know you, what you do. And I always love and enjoy connecting fellow INFJs in business. So I'd love to see you. And regardless if you come or not to Empathy as We Know It, I hope this video was helpful I hope this episode was helpful for you nonetheless. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Don't forget, courage over fear, progress over perfection. Bye, guys.